Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to Knife AQ episode 176 of the series where I answer all your questions, sharp or dull. This week we're taking a look at your burlap flavor name suggestions from last week, and we've got a buddy who wants to replace his friend's knife who happens to be in law enforcement. What should he get? Let's check it out. All right, if you're new to this series, here's the deal. We answer questions. Whether they're good answers or not is up for debate, but we answer your questions anyway. The questions that you folks leave in the comment section below these videos. So that's what you got to do if you want to submit your questions. Drop it down below. First question today comes from Craig Demagal. Hey DCA, my good friend and neighbor has a birthday coming up and I want to get him a new knife to replace his very old ZT 350. I'm looking for a bigger knife, maybe assisted, something similar to the 350. I have eyed the Hogue/Sig Sauer knife, the K320, as it is similar, looking to spend around $250. He's a SWAT/state trooper and carries a folder all the time. What can you find me? All right, so I will preface this by saying I am not a law enforcement officer and I do not play one on TV. So all my suggestions are going to come from things that are using the 350, which you mentioned, as the jumping off point. But I would be curious, folks in our audience who are watching this who happen to fit that description, what sort of knives do you carry? Or if you know someone who does fit that description, what knives do they carry, if you know? Love to hear down in the comments. But here is the 350 right here. It is, despite its shape and appearance, not a large knife, or at least not a long bladed knife. It's not even 3 1/4 inches long, measured from tip to scale, yet it feels like a bigger knife than it is. It's due to the broadness of the shape overall, I would say. Definitely gives you a full-size cutting performance. It is still available. You could still get this if you wanted to replace it with a newer one. You could even get it in Magna Cut steel, everyone's favorite super steel nowadays, or the standard S30V version here with the Tiger Strip is still available. And the K320 you mentioned here is a great choice, especially, maybe a bit biased, but the Knife Center exclusive version here with aluminum handles and a Magna Cut blade, I think is just the bee's knees. You can get it in a Tonto or a drop point. Tontos are in stock right now. Drop points we're waiting on a replenishment at the moment. But it's just so cool, this particular project. We have such a great relationship with Hogue that allows us to do stuff like this. That's what I'm just happy to be involved in. Great action with the crossbar lock here. Maybe a bit harder to open with the thumb, especially if you're wearing tactical gloves or something like that, but that action always works quite well. Good price on these too, actually, coming in $162 right now, so well under your $250 price range. What else is out there? Well, for $224 is the Magna Cut version of the 350, but you could, you mentioned maybe assisted opening. You could go with kind of the same family as the ZT, with upgraded steel, Magna Cut for only about $130. Interested? How about the Kershaw Blur right here? That could be an interesting choice. Kind of about the same size as the ZT, only a bit more squat, shall we say. It's not as fat in the height-wise region right here, but sharpened edge, virtually the same. Might be a skosh less on the Blur, but I do know law enforcement friends of mine who have carried this knife in the past, so this could be a very good option. You've got the assisted opening. You've got a very easy to use set of thumb studs right there with the steps and the serrations on them, the grooves that give you some good purchase.
And something to be said for cheaper, because it could end up in evidence.
There is that, I guess, too. No finger guard like you would get with the flipper tab on the 350, but you do have the rubberized traction inserts there, which should help out. And if you want to go cheaper, there are less expensive versions without the Magna Cut steel as well. Now, you did say bigger, and I'm embarrassed to admit that the things I picked out here didn't really lean into the bigger side of things you were talking about. So we're going to work through it. We're going to work through it together. I forgot about the bigger part here. You could go with the spiritual successor to the ZT350, which is the ZT357. Actually, the same price as the currently available version of the 350. Both of these are at $188, but the 357 will give you 20 CV steel, which offers more edge retention over the S30V, and more kind of complex shape going on, more involved milling going on, so it feels like it's a bit more than the 350, even though they are the same price. It is assisted. It is a good fit in my hand, at least, and it's got a very pokey blade as well. But it's not quite bigger here. So, I'm embarrassed to say that doesn't work. Next suggestion, or I mean, it could work for you. What do I know? I'm just a knife guy. I was going to offer something by way that's like just barely above your budget, not by much. It's in the ballpark. That does what the 350 does in that it's relatively compact and yet feels like a bigger knife. And that's the Mini Adamas from Benchmade. About the same blade length, 3 1/4 inches. You've got crew wear blade steel, which is quite nice. Sharpened edge, a little bit less than the ZT right out of the bat. But the crew wear is excellent, hard use, tough stuff. And it's got a very hand-filling grip as well, which is quite nice. $261 at this point in time. So like I said, just above your budget. If you were to go with like the full-size Adamas, which I think would be a really cool choice, that is going to bust your budget a little bit here. What are we looking at for that? About $292 and some change. But I actually have one over here because we pulled the wrong one the first time we go in the video. But now that's working to our advantage, Thomas. How about them apples? So yeah, a little bit bigger than the 350. You got almost a 3.8-inch blade with the full-size Adamas. I own one of these myself. I think it is an excellent hard-use knife and definitely leans into like the military tactical SWAT vibe very much. So that could be a good option if you're willing to stretch your budget. If not, got some more options for you. I was tempted by the military family from Spyderco. I was thinking like the Paramilitary 2 comes in at about $213 and change right now with an S45 VN blade, black coated. That's the price for the black coated version of this. Gives you, actually it's interesting. It's longer than the 350 as you can see, but it doesn't give you more sharpened edge. And part of that is due to the extra area of the finger choil here, allowing your friend to choke up on the blade, get a little bit finer control. This may not have a blade that is as kind of robust and hard use feeling as the ZT. I mean, you can compare the thicknesses. The tip is much more robust on the ZT than the needle-like tip on the Paramilitary 2. So that might sway you away from it. It is a little bit lighter and easier to maneuver, however. I was going to suggest the PM3, or sorry, Spyderco fans are going to get mad at me in the comments now. I apologize. The Para 3, because it also kind of straddles that line of a compact knife that feels a bit bigger. It's about a 3-inch blade here and even less sharpened edge. So you're getting significantly less sharpened edge than the ZT350 there. And obviously not an assisted knife. Neither was the Benchmade that we looked at. But since you asked for bigger, PM3's out. Can't throw it at the wall. That's unfortunate. It'd be fun to just like throw knives at the wall if I could when we were done with them on videos.
You hurt the wall's feelings.
We don't have that kind of budget. One more that you could look at that I think fills a similar role, but lacks the assisted opening option for you. The Cold Steel American Lawman. It's right in the name, right? Here it is next to the 350. Actually, let me hold them up like so. Thomas, you were going to say something?
I was going to say, stop wiggling around.
How about now? Man, if I had cut myself right there, that would have been really funny. $120, about $121, S35 VN steel, so a little bit tougher than the S30V on the ZT, and thickness-wise, might be even a skosh thicker, so probably a little bit more durable in terms of indiscriminate use. It's got plenty to hold on to, but it is slimmer than the 350, so it might be easier to carry. You're dealing with a lockback though, so you don't get one-handed closing even. But the one-hand opening is nice, it's just not assisted open snappy. I think this could be a really good option. So pretty much everything here was well under your budget, except for the Adamas, which is a little bit over. Hope this helps. And again, law enforcement, SWAT people in our audience, tell me about your knives in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. would like to educate myself more with some real-world examples here. Thank you much. Now we come to our measured once, cut twice segment, where we take a second slice at a previously answered question. And this one, we're talking about the Burlap Micarta. And I have a comment of the day saying, Burlap Micarta tastes like chocolate-covered espresso beans. Source, I made it up from Kermit the Pog. Thank you, sir. That's just an excuse to say that comment because it made me laugh quite a bit. But I asked you, because I've been kind of jokingly referring to knife handle colors as flavors these last few weeks, what is the flavor of Burlap Micarta? What should I refer to this as flavor-wise? And hang on, where'd my thing go? There it is. I've compiled your responses right here. See? Wiggle. Bunch of different votes. I'll mention a few that didn't get the winning amount of votes or even close to it, but ones that I liked personally. Waffle. Actually, one person said waffle cone. The other person said pecan waffle. I like that. Waffle, I think, works really well for something like that. Nutty Buddy, those cookies, that's a real good option. 2 people mentioned that, actually. Beef jerky was really good. Squished milk duds was really good. It says the same texture as when you squish a milk dud. I kind of like that, too. But let's talk about things that got some more votes. About 5 folks said some variation of potato, like baked potato or something like that. Other ones, pecan or pecan pie. A couple people mentioned that, about 4 or so. And 2, however, really kind of stepped away from the pack. Root beer. Actually, I don't quite agree with that one, but we had 8 different folks mention that. But with about 10 total people mentioning some variation of coffee. Coffee bean, mocha, latte, various. A lot of folks said that. I like it. I don't know if I'm going to go with that, though. I think like something about waffle flavored, actually beef jerky flavored, I feel is pretty good, too.
The answer is Triscuit.
Oh, yeah. Thomas said Triscuit. That's a pretty good one. 2 people mentioned Triscuit, according to my tally right here, and neither one of them was Thomas, so I'll bump into 3 on your say. You were ready for this. I didn't even know you had a box of Triscuits out here.
They've been there since yesterday.
Can I have these? We need to... I haven't even opened yet. We'll be right back. No, darn it. Good suggestions. I liked them. I don't think I agree with coffee. A lot of people mention that relatively. I don't know if I agree with that, though. But good suggestions nonetheless. There was a bunch. Any others stick out to me? 2 people said brown sugar. A couple people said tobacco. That was interesting. What else have we got? Peanut butter, leather, beef jerky. Yeah. There's some good ones there. Thank you, everyone, so much. Frozen hot chocolate. Anyway, that's the last one. Hey, I got to throw my pad of paper at least.
Frozen hot chocolate is just chocolate.
Now we come to our lightning round for today. First question from KREFCENZ, KnifeCenter. Could you expand on this was in response to Seth's survival knife video he did earlier in this week, which I rather enjoyed. I hope you folks did too. He bought himself a BK9, and in doing so, he talked about a bunch of different knives, and this was in response to that. Could you expand on your concern that the rubber handles would be fatiguing? I would think it would be exactly the opposite. Since they are a softer material than something like G10 or aluminum, I would think they would help protect against fatigue. Maybe your experiences are different. I'll answer for Seth here. It all depends on the type of use you're doing. The thing with rubber, yes, it is softer than G10 or Micarta or anything like that. It can sometimes be, depending on what you're doing, actually too grippy. In the fact that it won't let your skin slide around even a little bit, and that can actually cause blisters over time. And that can be very fatiguing as you work. It works great on knives that you're going to be chopping or batoning heavily with because it can absorb vibrations. But even that, if you're heavily chopping with a rubber-handled knife and it is pulling your skin, that could be a problem. So rubber does have its advantages for sure as a knife handle, but it does also have its trade-offs as well. Next question from John Madrigal. Hey, David and crew, I've been seeing a lot of large Bowie knives in my perpetual YouTube scrolling. Gives me an excuse to get out a large Bowie knife, the Sword of Von Timsky.
Like you needed an excuse.
No, but I'll take one. And I was wondering, is that recurve tip on a Bowie so that a baton will be caught while breaking wood down, so hammering through wood. Why the swoop on a tip? While the clipped point on a Bowie knife could ostensibly be used as a baton catch, that's not really what it's about in terms of a Bowie knife. It's really about thinning the tip out for better penetration. The original Bowie knife, Jim Bowie's original knife, may or may not have actually been a clip-pointed blade, but it was in essence a fighting style knife. So that's what it's all about. It's not a bushcrafty or whatever type of feature. It's all about the pokey. Turning ourselves around now. Hey, I did it before you could. Skippy Slicers asks, hey y'all, long-time listener, first-time caller. My question is about DLC coatings on blades. Got the American lawman here. The thing about DLC coatings is they take fingerprints like a champ. You always have to clean them off. This has a DLC coating. It is my understanding that the purpose of DLC is to provide a very tough, scratch-resistant coating on a blade. My surface-level Googling reveals that the hardness of the DLC is in the 80 to 98 Rockwell range. How does this affect the ease of sharpening once you reach the DLC coating? And are there any special measures that need to be taken to sharpen a knife with a DLC coated blade? I will try to answer your question in fewer words than you used to ask it. In my uses of actually sharpening said knives, I've never noticed a difference using just the normal sharpening stuff that I use. It's a very thin coating after all, so you're not actually wearing away a bunch. Let me know, folks out there, if your experience has been different, however. And now we come to our final question of the day, which is, of course, say it with me, our most serious question of the day, which today comes from Kevin Stryker. Hey DCA, most serious question. I am training to be the first person on Mars. Are you like training through official channels, or are you just like doing this in your backyard
Very
kind
ambitious.
of thing?
Very ambitious.
Very ambitious. Like, I'm imagining this fun image of a guy in his backyard in like, a sleeveless t-shirt and, above ground pool sitting over here, like doing Kung Fu. Not the Kevin Stryker, this is what you are doing, but.
It is a suggestion, though.
Hey DCA, I'm training to be the first person on Mars. What would be the best knife to bring on my trip through the cosmos? Cybertruck themed knives need not apply. It's a very short amount of cosmos you're talking about traversing, but you're gonna need 2 knives actually to see you through to your third knife. What do I mean? Well, first of all, you gotta land, so you're gonna need a lander, such as any of the NAF's lander series is gonna do you quite nicely. They do make some earth brown handle scales for these. Don't use that.
You'll lose it.
It's right out. Well, it's the wrong celestial rock. First of all, they don't make a Mars red handle. That would be more appropriate. But if you use the earth brown handles on your lander too, you're gonna miss. You're gonna land in Pensacola or something. That's where the above ground pools are probably. But once you're down, you need to know where you're going or figure out where you're going, in which case anything with a Mars Valley fat carbon handle is going to do you quite well, such as this Arcform Slimfoot right here, KnifeCenter exclusive version of the Slimfoot. And the reason I say these are going to get you to your third knife is you got to meet up with one of them robots that they put on the surface there. The Pathfinder. I guarantee you they put a Buck Pathfinder on that drone. Drone's the wrong word, but you know what I mean. Or wait.
Just a land-based drone.
This is also the Pathfinder. Worlds collide.
Go for the Pathfinder less taken.
Sure, why not? Well, that's all we have for today, folks. Keep your questions coming and keep your most serious questions coming as well. Let me know what you thought of the answers down in the comments. If you have some alternate suggestions, drop them below, including you LEO people out there. Curious to hear from you, as mentioned. If you want to get your hands on any of these knives, not the Triscuits. Thomas doesn't know it yet, but these are mine. If you want to get your hands on anything else that's on this table in front of me, blade-wise, check out the links in the description that'll take you to KnifeCenter.com. While you're there, don't forget about our long-running Knife Rewards program either, because the least thing we can do when you buy one of our knives today is give you some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera. I am this box of Triscuits. We're signing off. See you next time. Bye.